Asha Dore.
My name is Drew David Combs.
And this is Totally Biased Reviews.
You know, I think a lot of it turned out the way that we were anticipating, which I think is always good.
I think that we had a smaller space than we expected, and that the way that we made use of the space, like making a circle for the festival, which with like a play in each little section of the circle, ended up being really challenging to figure out initially, but worked by the last performance, I think.
Yeah, I think the setup, the vision for it came through about as well as it could have, considering the challenges that we faced in the space. I think it was a great opportunity for the playwrights to hear their work, to hear it being performed, and to get a genuine, honest, audience reaction to it, especially because these are all early works in progress. We've probably not even thought about having audience interaction yet. And having them come in at such an early stage can be super helpful, I think.
Yeah, it was really neat to hear different people from the audience coming up and talking about the plays, and it seemed like a lot of people were touched by all of them. So that was cool to hear, and also some good feedback about the position of the room. And it ended up, in my opinion, being kind of like a kaleidoscope of journeys, which was not the intention, but was a cool result, I think. Yeah, I think everybody got something a little bit different out of it, which is cool. It's difficult, very difficult to put on a festival like this, much more difficult than a 1 or 2 time single performance of one script. And it's cool that Parley gets to collaborate like that. I don't think we often get to collaborate on work that we're all doing, It's like we get to volunteer for each other's plays, and we get to do behind-the-scenes stuff, but we don't always get to collaborate having our work read. Yeah, how well that worked. Different actors in different pieces, but also just we became kind of a well-oiled machine, I think, by the third day.
Yeah, Parley really thrives on the strength of its repertory. I really think that, we tend to use the same actors, we tend to have the same process every time. And that makes it really easy to sort of slot people in, because it's we know what the process is. A lot of the people we work with already know what the process is, and then when we get new folks like Anna Maria or Viviana, they get to learn from people who are already well versed with the process.
They were really amazing, and I was impressed at the way that they changed roles very quickly.
Yeah.
It's always impressive. Each playwright did a self-review where they talked about something that they liked in the performance and something that they learned from it.
This is Katherine Jett, and I wrote and performed the first piece in the festival called An Odyssey. I think the goal for the piece in this festival was just to put it up in front of people and kind of see what the response was, and to see how it felt to do it. I've never done solo performance before, and I've never written autobiographical material before. And the material is very personal and can be painful, so I didn't know what it would be like to perform that. Toward those ends, I think it was successful. I think the audience seemed to stay with me, and overall it seemed like the thing was reasonably watchable, which is always a relief. Because I was performing my own material, I could feel very quickly where wording was cumbersome, or where maybe an idea didn't flow into the next as well as it could.
Well, the word bike, the number 4, and the letter U. For simplicity's
I am Dustin, and I wrote Bicycle Play, and what I think I really took away from this performance is what pieces worked and what didn't, because this work is so broken up into sections, and there are more sections that weren't in this particular presentation, and I think some of those could be reintroduced while switching out some of the ones that I have. I was happy with some of the moments of comedy that were really connecting with people. I thought there was good response to the opening and closing sections, and even some of the bits within the monologues. What I really, really want to reconnect with is this through line, this connection, and this evolution, and really make sure that the overall arc of the play matches that metaphor of the hill. So I think I made strides towards that end in this production.
Do you want to go with Nate?
Yes. Nate Heneghan, who wrote the piece Half Sister, says, "This was my first time seeing a piece of mine performed, so it was certainly a learning experience, albeit a gratifying one. I felt that the interplay between the projected images and the performances was particularly effective in providing a visual dynamism and texture, while also conveying the play's overarching themes of self-reflection and loss in an indirect way. Witnessing the evolution from rehearsal to performance within a short span of time, I was consistently impressed by the level of creative adaptability on the part of the director and actors to make the most of the space and resources available, something one doesn't naturally consider when committing words to the page. This tends to support my philosophy that often material limitations serve as a blessing in disguise in facilitating even greater creativity and inventiveness. Overall, I found that seeing one's dirty beast, or work in progress, does the dirty beast of the program's title in fact refer to the author? Performed live provides the best kind of motivation in conceiving potential future directions for the piece that one would not otherwise be able to envision, as well as the general incentive to keep writing."
Are we going? Okay.
Our playwright, Carolynne Wilcox, the author of Guardiana de Recetas, had this to say: "Though it was definitely a dirty beast, I felt my piece was a bit out of place in this festival. Low-tech, dialogue instead of monologue, unapologetic Spanish, etc. So I'm not sure the audience got it. However, I thought it was lovely, staged beautifully but simply, and I got misty-eyed during Saturday's performance. So much of it is deeply personal. I appreciated the commitment from my actors, Viviana Garza, Isis King, and Ana Maria Campoy, who did a wonderful job bringing it to life. It was definitely a little out of body to be watching actors essentially play me and my late mother and abuela. The immigrant angle stood out more than I'd expected, which definitely gives me a trajectory in developing the piece further. Going forward, it seems like it would work particularly well in combination with offering food as part of the event, because who wouldn't love to munch on churros and chocolate while taking in a show?"
Agreed. Carol wrote, "Solo performance for chicken suit and two-string guitar is 1, a sermon on faith and simplicity, 2, a communion, 3, 4 musical performances, including original works and covers. One thing that worked, the sheer effectiveness of the chicken persona, the animal as a universal character. Aesop knew what he was doing. One thing I learned from performing it live, if you are wearing a mask, the audience won't know how nervous you actually are." Which is so awesome. And I think that, that was quite a short review, so we'll probably watch a little bit of the performance.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
So, my understanding is that we ended up going with that title because it kind of describes the plays themselves as like dirty little beasties that we're working to make a little bit more refined through this process.
Rebecca and I were sort of talking actually during the development of the title, and she mentioned, I don't know this, but I trust that this is correct. It's a reference to Yeats, maybe, or Keats or something. It's a reference to a poet, a very oblique reference to a poet. But yeah, the idea was that we wanted to convey that a play in this stage of development is not even necessarily a play yet, you know? Yeah. It's like 10 pages and some spit. Mm-hmm. So I think the idea is, these dirty little beasts that you end up having to polish and clean and wrangle to fit into your, whatever the milieu of what you need to say is like, it's tough. It's like a rodeo. Mm-hmm. And I think we definitely wanted to express with the title that it's tough.
Yeah, I like that.
I know for me, with Jonah, I really struggled with the script itself. Like, I had trouble with motivation. I had trouble trying to figure out what I even was trying to say with the script. Mm-hmm. And spending some time with it with this festival, gives me a much clearer picture of even, why I started writing it in the first place. Mm-hmm. Which I think is great because, sometimes a script needs the kind of feedback that a performance will give it, but not that the entire process can take.
So do you want to talk about like what worked for you in your piece?
I mean, just having it on its feet was really the most important thing, I think, for Jonah, because it's a solo show, technically, and because there are so many interlocking parts, just as a matter of course, with the voices and with the props and with the whale and all this. So, it was good to see it on its feet so that I can assess, like, I think the biggest thing I learned is, like, where do I want to simplify? Where do I want to cut? Because I'm a very florid writer. And even just cutting down the section that I was going to perform took a lot of thoughtful energy. And I didn't really like the script. And so taking that kind of thoughtful energy didn't feel worth it, but it was like, well, people are going to see this. Right. So I need to put the work in. So for me, it was very much like, like Nate said, it gives you the motivation to just pay attention to the script. But the biggest thing was like, I'm sort of a jokester, sort of a jester, kind of a clown. And I didn't realize that that's not what I had written at all. Mm-hmm. And especially because, Denny was so funny with Dustin's piece. Yeah. Like, it was really easy for people to laugh at Jonah. Yeah. And it wasn't until Rebecca was like, how seriously does he need to be taken, that I even realized, like, oh, he needs to be taken seriously in a way that I don't. Mm-hmm. So that was cool. I mean, that really uncovered a lot of motivation for me. I think it's great that Rebecca is also an actor, mm-hmm. and an accomplished one at that, because it's the kind of thing that a director can miss if they're focused too heavily on the text, mm-hmm. and they don't think about the actual playing of the piece. I agree. I had a playwright come out to see us perform some of his work, and he was like, I think it's important for plays to be a little too long and to have some problems in them, but to be alive in that way. And you sort of end up with a bunch of, like, people stating directly their text and subtext to each other, or standing in a room. Like, one or two really good plays will sing. But yeah, it's so important to have that discerning kind of eye on it. And I know Rebecca is so kind to be like, anything can live, but I think it's also important, and I think Parley gives us the space to say, like, for now it's dead, which can be really helpful.
Yeah. Valid. I guess I should talk about mine, huh?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't really know. Okay, so I guess I'll just introduce myself again. So I wrote The Southernmost Point, and I don't know, so this is my first play in a really long time being performed that I know of.
That you've received a royalty check for.
And it's a story that's easy for me to tell. I wanted to do something with that sign before it died.
Yeah.
And, you know, I epoxied it for the performance, but it's part of it broke off on the trip back to my house. So it's really not, it's not long for this world.
Yeah, it was on its last legs when it was first made.
Like, I was more interested in what my stage directions needed to be and how that would work. And like what, like, the kind of costumes that I like to make would do.
Yeah.
For people, and I really like working with cardboard. Unfortunately, most of my cardboard art has, you know, ended up being installed and then destroyed by rain.
Yeah.
So this is like a way to make the art that I like to make that won't be destroyed instantly. And I don't know. So I really liked seeing it. It was interesting to see, like, something that's, like, very close to my life story played out by two people who are, like, very different from me and my dad.
Yeah.
And I thought they were both excellent. I also was like, oh, okay, I really should have changed those stage directions.
Yeah.
Like, I sort of, like, was taking notes about, like, okay, this is how specific I need to be. I tend to put in fewer stage directions.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea of the collaboration. But I'm realizing that being a little bit more heavy-handed will probably create more of the meaning that I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my big takeaway.
Yeah.
And man, I loved the way people reacted to the movement in the signboard. Like, whenever the mermaid was moving around, and, like, it didn't really matter what she was talking about. Like, everyone was making a vocalization of some kind.
Yeah,
like,
you know, I think there was something really delightful about simple cardboard costumes. I think there's something, again, like we were talking about, there's something charming and compelling about sincerity. And, like, I think Parley is a very serious, very sincere kind of organization.